I wish somebody had told me this information 15 years ago, before the damage had already been done. SOS just stands for salt, sugar, and oil. People who follow an SOS diet, or an SOS-free diet rather, are simply those who choose to remove the salt, sugar, and oil from their daily meals. But why are so many people interested in following this dietary pattern, and what the heck should we be eating instead? These are the things I'll be discussing in this video, so stay tuned. All right, let's talk about why you might want to go SOS, or SOS-free, as I like to call it. I literally have an entire video series dedicated to this topic, so I'll link that here. The short version is that foods containing salt, sugar, and oil are going to cause weight gain, perpetuate food cravings. They cause things like inflammation, aging, brain damage, hypertension, insulin resistance, tooth decay, and chronic disease, just to name a few. I decided to remove these from my diet ages ago because I was having troubles with my weight and maintaining a lean body. I also had a horrible sugar addiction to the point where literally every tooth in my mouth has some sort of filling or root canal. I think the first one I got was at like 12 years of age. I just grew up in an environment where it was natural to eat candy for your breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. So I was sick and tired of dealing with the cravings. I also had problems reducing my salt and oil intake, but I didn't notice until later on because you don't realize how many foods actually contain these items until you try to remove them from your diet. So after learning why it's helpful to remove these from your diet, now you need to know what the heck to replace them with. So let's start with salt, because this one tends to be very difficult, especially for people who like to cook their own food, because we have this cultural understanding that we're supposed to add salt to practically everything that we cook, or bake for that matter. But it's totally unnecessary. We get all the sodium that we require to function on a daily basis from whole natural foods, especially things like dark green vegetables. Eventually, that's where you're gonna get your sodium. I get all the saltiness I need from my dark leafy greens. But when you're first transitioning to this diet, those aren't gonna cut it. So you're gonna wanna try things like high acidity foods, particularly vinegars have natural high acidity. And they vary a little bit from vinegar to vinegar, but there are so many flavors and different types of vinegars nowadays. You can try blueberry or grapefruit or savory brands like jalapeno, herb and garlic, onion. My go-tos are typically balsamic vinegar, red wine vinegar, maybe some white wine vinegar, and apple cider vinegar. But some other ways you can salt up your food is by adding tomatoes. I put a little bit of tomato sauce in all of my soups because it just gives it that extra bit of deliciousness and acidity that I crave. Acidity actually has like a similar location on the tongue and with the taste receptors as does salt. It kind of mimics the reaction you would get from eating something salty. You can also try citrusy foods like lemons and limes in your cooking. You'd be surprised how many flavors can be enhanced just by adding a wedge of lime or lemon. And the last two things that help to replace the salt are onions and garlic. These are so flavorful and so naturally salty that you really don't need any added salt. If you want something slightly more processed, you can try things like miso. For whatever reason, research has found that miso actually does not increase hypertension, but other forms of sodium-based Asian products do. So things like
soy sauce and tamari.
Yeah, those are my pugs. I think you can see Bentley in the corner. And LeBron, he's black, that's why he's a little unnoticeable. And like I already mentioned, those dark green veggies, so things like leafy greens, broccoli, celery, these all have that natural bitterness to them that is where you get all your sodium that you need. Believe it or not, I start every morning with a giant bag of raw broccoli. I think it's because I just crave that natural bitterness. And we're all different in that aspect. We all have these different genetic predispositions to which of these we're most susceptible to. Mine was definitely the sweet tooth, but I also find I have difficulties with the salt and the oil. And I think everybody does to some extent because we're human, but you do have that natural propensity to be more swayed by one or the other. So I'm sure you know which one that you belong to most. All right, let's talk about oil. So many people get confused about what they should be putting on their salad or what they should be sauteing with because they think that olive oil is the end all be all and it's gonna cure all your illnesses, and it's just sad that the marketing companies have gotten that good at persuading us. Because when you think about what oil is, it's literally removing everything of human benefit from that item. So when you take an olive and you remove the fiber, the water, the nutrients, the phytochemicals, the antioxidants, these are all things that are highly beneficial to our health. Why would you want to remove them and suck out what's left, and that's the liquid fat? You even take out the protein and the carbohydrate. I digress. Again, those other videos I have will be super helpful if you want to dive more into this topic, but I won't get into that in this video. So something helpful I've learned with oil substitution is a flax egg. You literally mix 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed with about 6 tablespoons of water and just mix it up really good and let it sit for about 5 or 10 minutes, and it turns into this goopy, gelatinous oil type substance, and you can use that to substitute in your baking. You can also use pureed things like pumpkin, squash, sweet potato, otherwise applesauce and mashed up bananas work really well. You can use other seeds such as chia or hemp. You can blend them, you can make nut butters, you can use nuts, you can use blended nuts. And of course there's water for sauteing. Believe it or not, water works just as well as oil. You just have to keep adding a little oil. You just have to keep adding a little water at a time and make sure that you're moving the veggies or whatever it is that you're cooking in the pot. Don't let it get too hot. All right, last one, moving on to sugar. And if you want, again, I have a full video on these substitutions. So if you want to check that out, make sure you click this link here after you finish this video. The easiest go-tos for sugar substitutions are fruit. So this is going to be fresh, frozen, or dried fruit. But dried fruit is a little more processed, so it's gonna have that it's gonna have that water removed, so it's gonna be more highly concentrated. So this is probably helpful when you're first getting off some kind of sugar binge, but don't get stuck in this phase, because I used to eat a box of dates every day when I was trying to get off all the candy I was eating. Unknowing that it was completely perpetuating my cravings and keeping me from fully enjoying a normal, calm, collected life. You can't think properly when you're constantly obsessing about your next sugar binge. That's why I made it a point to really transition off the dried fruit as soon as possible onto fresh or frozen. Those are, in their most natural forms, the least likely to trigger something in my brain, causing some kind of cascade of dopamine or, you know, some kind of pleasure-seeking behavior. Nowadays, I'm strictly whole, natural fruit. Some slightly more processed substitutions are things like date paste, molasses, and maple syrup. Now, your best bet is going to be the date paste, and then the molasses, and then the maple syrup, because these are incrementally reduced in their natural benefits. So things like minerals, iron, calcium, magnesium. Maple syrup is pretty much devoid of these things, but the date syrup and the molasses have some. And then of course there's honey if you're not vegan. So if you want to go that route, those are your sugar options. I sincerely hope this video was helpful. I'm so glad that more and more people are interested in knowing what an SOS-free diet is and whether or not it's going to be right for them. So let me know if this information was helpful, or if I forgot anything, or if you have anything to add. Make sure you let me know in the comments and give this video a like, and I'll see you next time.